Welcome to the Writer Talks. Curiosity or wonder is a built-in mechanism in all of us, be it spotting of UFOs, an unusually warm temperature, a self-healed wound, or just about anything from the most basic to the most profound metaphysical aspects of our being. Its inquiry originates with our inherent sense of curiosity or wonder. My guest today, a fantastic, fascinating poet, author, book blogger, and publisher from Dallas, Yecheiliyah Yasryl, or EC as she is affectionately called, is back on the Writer Talks. In her latest novel, The Women with Blue Eyes, an urban fantasy fiction, EC brings in a unique story, fusing in investigative elements with that of the supernatural. And I must tell you that within a month of its publication, the paperback copies of this novel are already sold out. EC has been writing since the age of 12 and specializes in Black historical fiction and poetry. Besides being a hugely successful writer, EC dons the hat of a publisher with Elan, helping many indie writers publish their work. Her LitMag Literary Magazine for Poets is another platform for writers to showcase their talent. Let's dive in and listen to this ever-enthusiastic, vibrant EC talk about her latest novel, listen to her tips to promote and publish your work, besides watch her read excerpts from her own book. But before that, please like, share, and subscribe to the Writer Talk so that we can continue such rewarding literary engagements with brilliant writers from across the world. Do write in your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. I do hope you enjoy watching me talk to this flamboyant writer publisher from Dallas, EC. Until next week, hold on to that muse, carry forth, and smile. Ahoy! Ahoy! Welcome to the Writer Talks, and we have the electrifying, enthusiastic EC here. Welcome, EC, and welcome back to the Writer Talks.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Pleasure, and congratulations on your latest novel, The Women with Blue Eyes.
Thank you.
Great. So how does it feel? One more novel from the EC stables. Well, what does it feel like?
Because this is my first, it feels exciting, but also like a little nervous, only because this is my first book of this kind.
Right.
So it's like it's almost as if this is my first book, kind of.
Right. And it's interesting that you have attempted fantasy fiction. What was the reason behind choosing this particular genre for you?
It's interesting because Toni Morrison said, if there's a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So whenever I conceive of a concept for a story, I always see it in my head as a movie. And that's how this book came about as well. And I always say this is my first book of this kind, but I must go back. Back in 2014, I wrote a screenplay where the backbone of this story comes from. So, but I didn't really understand how to put it together in a way, like I didn't think about it being fantasy. I didn't really know it was fantasy. I didn't know how to put it together to where readers can really understand it. So I was playing around on the blog and publishing chapters for the story, and I didn't write it all at once. I would publish a chapter, then a couple weeks later I would publish another chapter, and people really just started enjoying it. And I didn't plan on publishing The Women with Blue Eyes, but people loved it so much that I decided, you know what, let me just make it a full novel. So it's kind of accidental.
Lovely, interesting. That's a very interesting story behind the story.
Yep.
Now, what was your first reaction? Your immediate feeling soon after you completed writing? When you hit the end or a new beginning, whatever you want to call it. As soon as you completed the novel, what was your first response?
My first response was relief, because it took me a long time to get to the end part. It took me a long time to just even finish the first draft. And I mean like years, because I would just I would leave it alone and come back to it and leave it alone. So my first reaction was just being excited at just having it done, even before the revisions, just like it's finished, like whew, now I can focus on other parts of it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, relief. I think that's exactly how I felt as well. Wow, you're done finally.
Yes, like whew, finally done. I'm done.
Right. We'll continue talking, but first let's dive into the rapid response segment. All right. So you know the drill. I'll ask you a series of questions with options. So you will have to choose one of the options, but you can't deliberate on the answer. So it has to be instantaneous.
Okay.
All right. So here's your first question. Let's assume you have a limited amount of time and you can pick only one of these two books to read. The choices are Michelle Obama's Becoming versus Barack Obama's A Promised Land. Which of these two would you choose and why?
Michelle Obama, because I have been wanting to read Becoming for a while and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Okay, all right. Let's hope you're watching this. That would be great fun. All right. Now, here's the second question. Between Langston Hughes's poetry and Maya Angelou's, which one would you recommend and why?
Ooh, I would probably recommend Maya Angelou because she's dope.
Because she's Maya Angelou.
Because she's awesome.
Right. Okay. Now that you've just recently published a novel as well, so you have, if you had the option for this novel to either go ahead and win a Pulitzer Prize or be a bestseller, which of the two would you opt for?
What kind of bestseller, though?
Bestseller
New York Times?
in terms of, oh yeah, New York Times bestseller.
Okay, so Pulitzer, I'll do that one. Only because I think it would give me leverage.
All right. Okay. Now, let's say we have hit the time machine. We've got it with us, and we can go back in time, and you can meet any one of these three iconic people: Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, or Alice Walker. Whom would you like to meet, and what is that one thing that you would ask?
Martin Luther King, and I would ask him if he knew he was going to die that day.
Interesting.
Because of his speech the previous day.
Right. That's interesting. Clever.
Yeah.
Okay, now, God forbid that this should happen. It should. Between you being a publisher or a writer, let's say you had to choose only one of these two, and you could be only either of these two for the rest of your life. Which would you choose? Yeah, God forbid.
I don't know if I could not write, but I would choose publishing because I would prefer to spotlight other talent than my own.
Wow, that's lovely. That's a lovely thought. Great. Okay, the last question, and it's a little cheeky. So, between promoting your book in India as opposed to promoting your book in the US, where would you rather promote it, and what is that one strategy you'd use?
Oh wow. I'll do India just to be different. And what strategy? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna do India just to be different, be worldwide.
Right. And there is a lot of reading public, and yeah, I think it helps. And they're always looking out for newer kind of stories and newer authors, so that should be an incentive. Thanks for being a sport. That's lovely.
No, that was cool. That was fun. I like that.
Great. Now, what was the hardest part for you in writing a novel? Was it the dialogues or was it the characterization? Which was the hardest as a novelist?
The hardest for me is ending the book because I usually do series. And so the challenge is to not leave too much of a cliffhanger, but to wrap everything up in a way to where you're connecting all of the dots. So I would say that ending the book and making sure that all of my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted and everything is tied up in a satisfactory way.
Right, right. And how many times did you edit your novel? How many times did you go back to it?
Too many times. Like I think as a matter of fact, more so than wrapping up the ending and just ending it is the revision process.
True, true, absolutely. Now, I know this is a little unfair, and given that it's your own book, but what is that one favorite line or one favorite section from your own book that you have? I know that as part of the promos, you've included a particular excerpt from chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken. But then, what is your favorite section or favorite line from your novel?
Oh, Asha. I want to say chapter 7, which is what I usually use as an excerpt, only because I think that it introduces a lot about what the story is about in kind of a short period of time, so to speak. So it introduces Pushar, and we see the dialogue kind of unfolding and stuff like that. So I would say that part, and some chapters closer to the end I really can't speak on right now.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Now, tell us a little more about the women with blue eyes. It's a very unique story going by whatever I have read. How did you think of this, and how long did it take for you to write this?
One of the things that I love about writing is when I love movies that have a twist to it. And by a twist to it, I mean something that starts off one way, but is completely like, okay, The Sixth Sense is a good example. So we watch the whole movie and we go through this whole spiel, and he's the one that's actually dead. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. It's been enough time.
I haven't watched it.
To watch Sixth Sense. So The Sixth Sense, also Shutter Island is another one of those type of movies. Now, I don't know how many people seen that, so I'm not going to give it away, but you go through this whole thing only to get to the end, you know what I'm saying? So that's, when I think about stories like that, I want to write books like that. I want to write it like that. And so with the women with blue eyes, I wanted to write a story that was based on the fallen angels and tie in Black history in some kind of way. So most people are familiar with Satan's rebellion and the angels that fell with him. But there's not too much talk about, they're known as, in pop culture, they're known as the Titans. Basically, let's put it like that. So, but there was another angelic rebellion among a class of angels called the Watchers. And the Watcher angels, their story is largely depicted in the book of Enoch. And also we see a little bit of it in Genesis chapter 6. And these angels wanted to come down, they wanted to get themselves wives, and they wanted to have some children. Of course, this was not what the Almighty Creator had created them to do. They wasn't supposed to do that. It's like a human going with a dog or something. So, they are known in pop culture as the Olympians, or the newer guys. You know, you have the old guys, new. So we see these stories, and they're perpetuated in society as being fictional. I do not believe they are fictitious stories. So, and the women with blue eyes are the descendants of the fallen Watcher angels. And they are going around the city of Chicago murdering Black men for their power, because they, as fallen angels, are no longer connected to the ultimate power source. So in order for them to keep living in fleshly bodies, they need the power of Black men. So that was the idea, like the skeleton, so to speak, idea behind the women with blue eyes. And I wanted to I didn't want it to be, I specifically chose women because usually in stories like this is men. So I wanted it to have some diversity going on. The main leader of the Legion name is Pushar, and historically in Greek mythology, Pushar is a white male god, and he is the god of vision. But in this story, she is a black female goddess, and she's the leader of the Legion. So that's where the whole idea and all of that came from. And it took me about to complete the whole thing. It took me like 4 years
Wow.
to finish the whole, because I would start writing on it, then I would stop, then I would stop. And remember, I never intended on publishing this book. So that's another thing that makes it so special is my whole thing was I want to give my readers something interesting to read. And I don't want it to be boring and just filled with all of those things. I want it to have a urban city like down to earth feel to it as well. So you have all of that spiritual stuff going on, but you also have Tina, the main character, who's a detective, and they're trying to investigate these murders of black men in Chicago. But little do they know the serial killers are not of this realm. So that's when it starts getting like, oh man, this is crazy. This ain't, you know. And I would publish chapters to the blog and everything, and people started liking it to my surprise. And I started getting more and more requests, man, you should publish it. And I'm like, no, I ain't gonna publish. This is just something fun. I usually deal with poetry and black historical fiction. Y'all can have urban fantasy. This is just something I'm doing. But after a couple years, I'm like, when COVID hit,
Right.
when COVID hit in 2020, that's when I decided to finish it as a full-blown novel and publish it.
Right. So it's been a blessing in disguise of the additional time that you got.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody's stuck in the house, not too much going on. So it gave me that time to really sit down and focus. You know, sometimes you could be writing a book and you can't really focus as you should. And it doesn't even mean that because you're writing a book, you plan to publish that book. Sometimes you're just writing it to kind of see where it's going to go. But in 2020, I was like, I'm going to publish this as a full-length novel. I'm going to sit my butt in this chair and I'm going to finish it.
Right. That's fair enough. I yeah. with nowhere to go and nothing much to do, one really didn't have much more of an excuse, right? So you had to sit down and sit and write.
Right. No excuses. Yep.
I love the inversion you did and the spin on the new spin that you gave on racism, with these angels hankering after the black skin, and then there is preferring that over the other European and the white skin. So would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes. So I am someone who believes in. I believe that the so-called black man, woman, and child, African Americans, including Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Dominican, Haitians. I believe we are the biblical descendants of the ancient Israelites. I believe we are the Hebrews, and I believe that the Hebrews were given a duty to be, for lack of a better word, leaders of the world by teaching them the ways of the Most High, the Creator. They were chosen people, so to speak. And so from there, we go into the power of Black people in general, and just everything that we have overcome and everything that we have endured, and how we basically set the trends nationwide, and all of these things, and melanin, and getting all into that. So from that spiritual perspective of believing that we are the chosen people, and also the physical aspect of us just being such a dope people, such a powerful people, I wanted to, if I was to choose a people for these angels to draw their power from, I wanted it to be Black people, because I believe that we have a special connection to the ultimate power source, Yah, the Creator, the Almighty. So that's where that came from down the line. So if we was to have a hierarchy of Yah, the creator, and the Messiah and the angels and man, woman, and child, I believe Black people will be close to the Most High in that hierarchy. So if these angels were going to petition or going to do anything to stay connected, it would be through the so-called Black people. And they would start with the man as the head of the household, as the leader, as the protector and provider of the family. They would draw most of that power from the Black man.
That's interesting. That's a very, very interesting hierarchy that you've laid out. Great, great. Now, could I request you to please read from your favorite section of the novel?
Sure. Let me find a good one for y'all. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to read from chapter 7 because I got another favorite part, but that kind of gives things away. So I'll read
right.
that. So I'll read from chapter 7 and I'll start with I guess I'll start at the beginning.
Okay.
Pushar licked her lips and smoothed out the wrinkles in her skirt as she stepped over the body, closing the door behind her. The electricity from his soul caused her entire body to pulsate and the blue in her eyes to shine bright. The fresh human essence had her whole body shaking, like one giant orgasm bursting from every crevice of her body. She wanted to run, jump, leap into the air, travel the planets and back down again. Her prowess and senses were magnified after each hit. Pushar walked with confidence and held her head high as she moved her hips from side to side. You see, red was her most favorite color to wear with the skin. Something about the hue against this dark body is so different from her true form and more comfortable to navigate the earth. Who wanted to be invisible to humans when it was easier to seduce them in the skin of a beautiful Black woman? Passerby, men and women alike, looked, and Pushar smiled. They always stared. Humans were fascinated by such blue crystal pupils against such brown, creamy skin. In real life, Paz thought human bodies were disgusting. She hated the soft gooiness of the flesh, how it bruised and bled so quickly, how it fell apart and crumbled with each passing day. She hated the rotting meat on the bone, but she did come to love dark skin tones. Other pigments didn't make her heart beat like melanin. With it, she could extend life in this body and still feel like the angelic entity she was. Every soul she consumed slowed the aging of the body.
Fantastic. and incidentally, I loved reading this part, and particularly when you go on to objectifying human beings and then say that, all right, they bruise and bleed so easily. And the preference for the melanin is a wonderful lines.
Yeah.
It kind of gives us a dressing down because as humans, I think we think we are kings and lords of the earth. It's a nice dressing down that you've managed.
Right, because I was trying to think, I'm like, and sometimes I would even touch my own skin. I'm like, okay, if I wasn't a human, how would I describe the human body? And we take our life for granted so much that we don't realize that you're not promised tomorrow. Like, who says that we get into these routines, go to work or get up and do this. But when we say you're not promised tomorrow, that's really literal. Like just I had fun speaking from the aliens basically perspective because of my realization of the fragileness, the preciousness, but the fragileness of our bodies themselves. Like every day you are getting older, you're aging. So I'm like, okay, if I was an alien, how would I describe humans? And then if I was an arrogant alien at that, like Pushar is very arrogant. So if I was arrogant, I would be like, okay, first of all, like we made alike and you like rotten bones and skin ill,
I know that's really good. Now, who are the novelists that you have grown up admiring?
Oh man, I like Octavia Butler's work. I actually really love George Orwell's 1984. That really sort of launched me into the supernatural way of thinking in terms of supernatural thrillers and like writing books like that, like taking my truth, taking my spiritual belief system, my truth, and mixing it in with that stuff like that. So George Orwell's 1984, I like that. um but authors I admire, I really love Ralph Ellison. I really love the classics. Lately though, I've also been really into Tanasi Coates.
Uh-huh.
I like his work. Um, I like who else is that? I think Jasmine Ward. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I like her work. Man, author of Mary Reach. I like her work. So, yep,
Lovely. There's some great choices there.
yep.
Now, what about your publishing and the promotion aspect of it? How long did you plan that?
Oh, it's interesting because, like I said, going back, I didn't plan on publishing it. So, in a way, the publishing for The Women with Blue Eyes started 4 years ago.
Okay.
It started with publishing the first chapter to the blog.
Right.
And every time I would publish a chapter, I would be promoting the book. And then when I decided I wanted to publish it, I started talking about it more about a year out. And so that's another thing with authors writing books and stuff like that. It's not about publishing and promoting the book when it comes out. It's about doing it as far enough in advance as you can. Like as soon as you start writing it, you're putting little hints and you're putting stuff out there about the book and stuff like that. Excerpts, your process. Maybe, man, I'm stuck on this part, or I'm revising this part, or just, it doesn't have to be you giving the book away, but you're just showing people, taking people on a journey so that when a book comes out, they're ready to buy because they've been on this journey with you. So The Women with Blue Eyes has been constantly promoted ever since I started publishing it to the blog. And then especially when I decided that I wanted to publish the novel, like a full novel.
Great. Now, what's that one compliment or one huge plus that you heard from your readers?
One huge plus I've learned from my readers?
Yeah.
Let me look at my review because I got a good one. Hold on, let me get y'all one. Because feedback just started coming out, and off the top of my head, though, I would say people complimenting me on the originality. Yeah, I can see off the top of my head the originality of the story and the originality of the story, because no story is really original, but what's original and what's set apart is your take on it, your spin of the same story. And that's another like a hint for writers is don't try to I have to write the perfect or the no. There's no. Every story has been done before. Every romance story, every fantasy story, every urban fiction, it's all been done before. But what's original is the fact that you wrote it and there's nobody else on the earth but you.
Right.
So how you spin it is what's going to make it stand out. So the best compliment I've gotten so far in relation to this particular book is they said that it was highly original and beautifully crafted. How I connected everything together and took the supernatural parts and the urban part and sort of blended it together in a way where it becomes one, story.
Right. Fair enough. Now, for indie writers, let's say with limited budget, considering you are a publisher as well, what is that one publishing tip that you'd like to give them? I'll tell you about a personal example. So there was this person who wrote to me. Obviously, I'm not going to share who it is. So this person wrote to me and then said, "Okay, we are going to do all the laligas for you, and this and that, and cover and all those things." So then it seemed very interesting, the brochure was sent across and all, and I saw the prices and the packages, and I thought, okay, I might have to pledge my kidney or something like that in order to be able to get this out. So, well, on behalf of indie writers, who with a limited budget, what is that one tip you'd like to give as a publisher?
Indie writers specifically with a limited budget, I would tell them, and it's funny because I have a blog post that I'm drafting along these same lines, is you have to prepare, like writing a book that you know you're going to publish, because like I had said earlier, just because you're writing a book, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to want to publish it or that it's even publishable. So once you decided that you're going to publish this book that you're writing, you have to treat it like you are opening a business. And usually when you're opening a business, there are startup costs. So I would suggest that for limited budgets, you start to get an idea of the budget for this book. Like, how much do you want to pay to publish this book? Because it's going to cost, even if you are not going through anyone, let's just say you're going to publish through Amazon, directly, there's still going to be startup costs. You still have to get it edited. You still have to get a decent cover design. You still need it to be formatted for digital. So look into what those prices are. Well, decide what your budget is going to be to publish this book, and start to kind of put those funds to the side a little bit. And it doesn't have to be all at once. You could, pay for editing, like, okay, this is my editing money. And then you decide, okay, this is going to be for the book cover design, and just little things like that. But it's very important that self-publishers realize that self-publishing a book is not free. Not if you want to do it right. It could be free. It could be very free. But if you want to do it right, if you want it professionally edited, if you want the book cover to stand out among traditional books, if you want it to be properly formatted, you also have to, if you want to get your print copy and stuff like that, that stuff is not free. It's going to cost you. So instead of writing the book and then deciding to publish it and looking like, oh wow, this is expensive, start your journey in the beginning when you first start writing the book. You can crowdsource. There are authors who crowdsource. An example is back in 2014, I wanted to publish my first screenplay. It was a screenplay series that is actually the background, kind of like where I got the background for The Women with Blue Eyes. So I published a screenplay series, and I hired a graphic designer to do the cover, but the cover was going to cost me money that I did not have. So I said, okay, well, let me ask for help. So I set up a GoFundMe to help pay for the cover. I got the money for the cover. Boom, I was able to do that and not have to like struggle with stuff like that. So GoFundMe, Kickstarter, the crowdsourcing you can do. And most importantly, take it one step at a time. Because the beauty of self-publishing is that you don't have to do it all at once. You can take it one step at a time. So maybe, because we're talking about limited budgets, maybe you want to go with, okay, let me focus on getting this book edited. I finished it. I revised it. I'm on a limited budget. I'm not going to worry about the other stuff right now. Let me just focus on getting it edited. So, because chances are after you get the book edited, there are other changes you might have to make with it. Maybe you want to change the title. Maybe your editor got some really good feedback for you. So let me just focus on that. And then finish with that. Okay. I got some next month, right? Next month, let me get my cover. Because that's how I started in the beginning. Like, you don't have to do everything all at once, but you do have to consider that if you want to do it right, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's one of the things that I don't hear a lot in the self-publishing community is you are investing in quality because if you do it right, then the money don't matter because that's gonna come back. That's gonna come back. Now you can upload a PDF to you can write the book and upload the PDF to Amazon. You can go get a cheap looking cover. You can do it free. You don't have to pay a lot of. I mean, you don't have to pay a lot of money anyway, even if you pay. But you can do it free. But is the book going to sell? Are people going to want to read it? Are you going to get that? Because see, if you invest in it the right way, you're going to get that money back.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. That's very useful. That's very useful. Now, let me tease you out on your LitMag, the magazine for poets. When and how did you start this?
Oh wow! So I think it was 2017 is when we hosted the first annual poetry contest.
Okay.
And I wanted to add more value to it. Like the first one, we had the contest. It was great. A lot of participation, very talented poets. So we still gave out prizes, always gave out prizes, Amazon gift cards. I think that year we gave out one of Maya Angelou's books. But for the next year, I wanted to add more value to it because my whole thing is always making sure that the poets and the writers that enter can have their work seen by as many people as possible. And like my whole thing is to put you on I'm okay working in the background. I want you to shine. I want you to get as much exposure as is possible. And I'm not a big shot or anything, but stepping stones. Maybe I can be the stepping stone to you getting spotlighted by someone even bigger, right? So for the next contest, the 2018 one, I decided that for all of the poets who enter the contest, I'm going to include their poems in LitMag. So LitMag is made up of the poems from the poets who enter the contest, because even if you don't win, at least you still get publishing and you still get exposure in the magazine. And then we promote the magazine and have people buy it and stuff like that. And that's how it came about. So because of COVID, we didn't have a contest in 2020. So our last LitMag was LitMag 2019 with the winners of 2018. So we usually do the previous year. Right. So for this year's contest, 2021, this year's LitMag, if we do the LitMag, I still have to decide if I'm even going to publish another one. It'll be the winners and participants of 2020 would come out in 2022, featuring the poets of 2021. So that's how I do it. So to give me time to, but that was the inspiration to kind of like, it's exciting being able, published in a magazine and stuff like that, and just be able to give more. It adds more value. So that was my idea.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Now, what's coming next from EC Stables? What's your venture?
What's coming next? Well, I definitely, this is going to be news to readers, but I am starting another part to The Women with Blue Eyes. So I want to do kind of like a sequel for that. I want to do a fourth book to my Stellar trilogy. So I kind of want to extend that. But the most important project I'm working on is a memoir.
Wow.
I don't know when that's going to be done, but one of my biggest dreams, I should say, as a writer, one of the things I definitely want to do before I leave this earth is publish a memoir.
Right. That's lovely. That I'm sure that would be really, really interesting to read.
Yeah, so because we always, and we hear this a lot on social media, we always see someone's success, and we see on social media, we see the highlight reels, but there's a lot that has gone into that, and there's a lot of struggles, and there's a lot of things and experiences that people go through that we don't see, so I want to be able to tell my full story, not only where I am, but how I got here, and even the struggles that I still have, because I'm human, and we're all human, and I think that's that bridge of commonality that connects us, is being able to say like, wow, I didn't think that you struggle with this too. Well, yeah, So yeah.
So, any final message to viewers of the Writer Talks?
Final message. First, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for continuing to come on this journey with me. Thank you, Asha, for offering your platform. It's such a beautiful thing. I would say make sure y'all definitely support Asha's Writer Talks. Subscribe, like, share it. Because I'm an indie artist and I support indie artists, right? So my last thing will be just keep going. Keep moving forward. I think I said that the last time too, but it's so important. It's so important because it's so easy to stop. But when things get hard, whether you're writing, whether it's life, that's when we have to push through. And I know it's easier said than done, but when we're right in that thicket of the difficulty, that's when you keep going because your reward is on the other side of that hurdle. You just have to get over that hurdle. I can't remember the movie, but there's a clip, and it's Morgan Freeman and someone else, and he says this, and I quote, he says, I don't remember the movie, maybe one of you can find it for me, and I'll leave you with this. It says, when you ask God for strength, do you think that he gives you strength, or do you think that he gives you an opportunity to be strong? When you ask God for patience, do you think that he gives you patience? Do you think that it just falls out the sky, or do you think that he gives you the opportunity to be patient? And so that's the message, is these struggles that we all go through, the reward is in that struggle. You're going to receive it right after that hurdle. So keep moving forward.
That's a lovely message. Keep moving forward. And I remember your previous message that was try one more time. So beautiful.
There we go. Just try one more time.
Great. All the best to your recently published The Women with Blue Eyes. I'm sure it's doing well and will do really, really well. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming on the Writer Talks.
Thank you.
Great. Ahoy.